strong, and I'm going to get through it, and I'm going to be honest. I'm going to prevail, because I know that my honesty and I know that my truth will get me through this, and that's the most important thing. And I've had the most beautiful life, and I know that this is a big moment, but I'm gonna succeed. I'm gonna get through this. I am. I know it. The morning of, it was, I don't know, I woke up and I felt like I was preparing for a match. Like it was match day, it was game day. It's always really hard to be like, I'm going to go out in front of the world and say that I fucked up. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here on such short notice. I wanted to let you know that a few days ago I received a letter from the ITF that I had failed the drug test at the Australian Open. I did fail the test, and I take full responsibility for it.
Will shed tears into the red clay. The champion is Maria Sharapova.
Oh my God. It's unreal. It's unreal.
Maria Sharapova.
My life is a very small part of the universe. Sometimes the ocean's very still and very solid, and it's like ice. And you only see its reflection. And other times it's so turbulent and violent. We go through our own stillness and our own shadows, and then we go through the waves. But they always rise, and then they fall, and they rise, and they fall, and sometimes it's followed by stillness, and then they come back up again, and it's an evolution. I think the one thing about life lessons is we never really know when they're coming, and we actually, in my life, I sometimes didn't even realize that I was learning something or I was going through a lesson until I overcame it. And especially after 2016 and reflecting on that. And this is certainly a situation in my life where I did reevaluate and I did look back. And it just gave me a sense of, I had an incredible career, and I've had my fair share of small comebacks and injuries and surgery and...
Oh, and that's me. You see? Hi.
But yet I've maintained a career since I was 4 years old, and I've had this gift of competing and playing tennis. And all of a sudden, it's just taken away from you. It was just about getting ready to go out and train, and I looked at my email, and I received an email from the ITF, and it was a subject line that caught my attention, where it had my name in the subject, and the emails that I usually receive from the ITF were all very general, speaking about the latest news, and I opened it, and then it said something about a test, a drug test that I did in Australia, and it mentioned a name of a supplement or a substance. I did not know it at the time. I found myself on my iPad like 30 seconds later looking up what meldonium was. Had never heard of that word, never seen it before. And then a packaging came up which read Mildronut, which I had seen many years of my life, and I knew exactly what it was.
It's very important for you to understand that for 10 years, this medicine was not on WADA's ban list, and I had been legally taking the medicine for the past 10 years. But on January 1st, the rules had changed, and meldonium became a prohibited substance, which I had not known.
Now to that bombshell announcement rocking the tennis world. Maria Sharapova,
the highest paid female athlete in the world for more than a decade.
Off the court, a sponsor's dream. The fashion icon and businesswoman making a whopping $30 million.
the five-time Grand Slam champion,
Admitting she failed
a drug test.
At this year's Australian Open. Players can be suspended for as long as 4 years for a failed test.
She could face anything between 2 and 4 years.
She is labeled now a cheater.
She's 28 years old. That would be career ending.
Well, the moment after the press conference, I deleted all my social media off my phone. So that was step one. And I think it was to protect myself, to protect my sanity in that moment, to protect myself against opinions, against judgment.
The cheaters are always going to be a step ahead of anybody that's tested.
You cannot say, oh, that escaped me. This is her career.
There's no doubt in my mind that Sharapova was taking this substance to help her performance.
I don't think I've ever gone through my career questioning what other people thought of me. It wasn't something that was very important to me. And then something happens and you're like, well, actually, you're walking on the street and you're like, do they know? Do they not know? What do they think? Do they not? And it would drown me. It would literally just upset me and make me feel so small. And for a woman that's 6'2" and feels confident most of the time about what I do in my life and the profession I'm in, it felt really uncomfortable to feel that small. My mom, she just made me feel like no matter if I was ever not going to hit a tennis ball, that's okay. And she must have spent a few weeks sleeping next to me in bed, just making sure that I knew that someone was always, with me. And in a way, and through this whole process, my dad's been incredible and so calm, and he's able to control a situation when shit hits the fan. Like, he's able to take a step back and evaluate it and reevaluate it and be calm and collected and cool and make the right judgment, making sure that things don't come out of anger, right? Because in a situation like that, you can put blame on everyone. I could blame this person, I could blame that person, and it was never about blaming. It was about taking control of it and being like, we all fucked up. You, me, your mom, our team. But this is what happened, and now we're gonna find a way to get through it.
Just listen to this. No Russian has ever won a singles title here at Wimbledon.
And a new star is born here on centre court. And Maria Sharapova, 17 years old, becomes the third youngest Wimbledon champion of all time.
I just feel like maybe I'm a bit of a new fresh air, in women's tennis, which is great because you haven't seen a lot of 17-year-olds, win a Grand Slam lately. So maybe we're coming back to the old times.
The champion is Maria Sharapova. And the 19-year-old has her second Grand Slam championship.
I started playing a pretty full schedule at that point, and I realized a total decline in my health. My parents said, well, actually, we don't have a doctor. You know, we have an athlete that's a Grand Slam champion that doesn't even have a family doctor. And so that's the time when my father found a doctor in Russia because I was still a teenager. You know, my father was kind of the captain of my team. And America was very foreign to him. Even though we'd lived here for years, he was still much more comfortable speaking to the Russian doctor.
Mix now. Deep and bring forward. Again, short.
He was not a doctor that ever, you know, had any work done with an athlete. He worked with immune systems of children, and he was actually a pediatrician. And he did all those tests, and that gave me a list, and actually it was quite an extensive list, especially for a teenager, of different substances that he recommended that I take, and Mildronate was one of the 10.
I was given this medicine by my doctor for several health issues that I was having back in 2006. I was getting sick a lot. I was getting the flu every couple of months. I had irregular EKG results.
So in Russia, Mildronate was an over-the-counter substance. It's taken almost like an aspirin back home. The doctor was receiving paperwork from WADA laboratories with an official stamp and signature saying all the substances that he had recommended for me to take were completely permitted and legal. I've been tested so many times, I think around 12 times in 2015, and the previous 9 years, and everything was fine. And it was determined that meldonium was going from the monitoring list to the prohibited list. At the end of 2015, players were sent emails, and there was nothing about meldonium written front and center in any of them. It was just very disappointing to learn what other federations did in order to warn their athletes. Because if I was warned, when I would have received that email in January, I would have at least known what the word meldonium was. The ITF knew that there was over 20 tests in 2015 that had meldonium in their system, and some of them were my tests. That's quite a large number. So the fact that they had that number and didn't do anything extra with it is very alarming.
I'm very sure that Maria did not know this thing was on the list, otherwise she would have never taken it, because we are so paranoid about taking anything that is on that list.
If she was caught to be positive on the doping for a certain substance, then there should be certain kind of, consequences for that.
I think most people were happy that she was upfront and very honest and showed a lot of courage to admit to what she had done and what she had neglected to look at in terms of the list at the end of the year.
She has such a very professional team. For everybody in the tennis world, I think Maria Sharapova is the last person that we expected this to happen to.
When there are 4 or 5 people on the team, everyone has a specific role. So you have a physical therapist, a fitness coach, a coach.
When you go here, then you're here. You see the difference? I mean, it's such a small difference, but it's a huge impact on the outcome.
And I think